Andrew, to The Guardian, looking at COVID testing being
Treasury
wound up.
pushed to end the free COVID tests, despite warnings, it says the thing. And actually, it's a good idea. Because if you keep testing, Trump actually said it, you might recall, on the thing, if you stop, the way to get the numbers down is to stop testing.
It's the one thing I agree with Trump over. The more you test, the more you're going to find.
Absolutely, it was hilarious. And we laughed at it at the time. But if you look at it now, what they're saying, it costs an absolute fortune to do it. It doesn't mean that those who are vulnerable are not going to keep getting the tests and so on and so forth. It just means that every single time you've got to do it, it's costing billions. Those are the sort of figures. If there is a way of doing it, then that makes a big amount of sense. What we're doing at the moment, we're in a war. We're in a war against the pandemic, and there's a number of victims. I always say the first casualty in the war is the truth. And if you want to spread any message, the best way of selling that message is through fear. By having constant testing, wearing masks, all this sort of stuff, when it was sensible to do so, and there are arguments about that, we are now getting to a stage, as I predicted, that it's going to be far less dangerous with the variants. And as a result, let's start easing off. Let's start saving money. Let's try and get back to a new normal. And you might recall the last time we had the pandemic, in 1918, they wrongly called Spanish flu. After that period, we went into what was called the Roaring Twenties, a period of sustained economic growth. I reckon if we stop getting scared, and you look at the figures coming out about how well we're doing with the economy and the predictions for the future, we can get into a really good place. So I think this is a positive story, and I think we should look at it as a positive story.
I think that we should also, I think it's slightly disrespectful to the hundreds that are still dying a week. You know, those numbers are still catastrophically high. We need a better breakdown of those numbers. We need to know why and if they're dying with or from, and there needs to be more honesty. And I think honesty removes fear quicker than saying don't test.
Well, there is news in some of the papers today of a new variant called they're calling Delta Cron, because it's a mixture of the original Delta and Omicron.
But they are also saying it's also mild. And this is the way that viruses go. This is what they do in order to survive. They don't want to kill their host. The common cold is a COVID virus, right? And it's very successful. So to be successful as a virus, you don't kill your host, you get weaker, but you spread
further.
And that's what they do. But I do think that we need to be very, not cautious as in scared, but I want more facts on the table, I want more truth on the table before we start going, oh, it's over.